Greetings, Poke fans! Michael here, and this video is going to cover every Pokedex entry from Scarlet and Violet's DLC that I think is worthy of note, due to being crazy, interesting, funny, disturbing, new info about old Pokemon, or whatever else. And we'll start with the Kitakami Pokedex from the Teal mask. Artisan Form Poltergeist Scarlet entry says it sprinkles some of its powdery body onto food and drains the life force from those who so much as lick it. What is it with ghost Pokemon draining life force? Like, is it ghost type or is it like leech type? Then its Counterfeit Form Scarlet entry says, supposedly, the regrets of a tea ceremony master who died before perfecting his craft lingered in some matcha and became a Pokemon. Okay, and regrets. Ghost Pokemon are just draining life force and regrets. Unremarkable Form Sinistra's Scarlet entry says it pretends to be tea, trying to fool people into drinking it so it can drain their life force. Its ruse is generally unsuccessful. I think it's kind of funny when Dex entries are just like, hey, this Pokemon does this thing, but it sucks at it. Next, I'm gonna cover the Loyal 3, and all 3 of their Scarlet Dex entries are in the same vein. Okidogi says after all its muscles were stimulated by the toxic chain around its neck, Okidogi transformed and gained a powerful physique. Then Monkey Dory says the chain is made from toxins that enhance capabilities. It stimulated Monkey Dory's brain and caused the Pokemon's psychic powers to bloom. Then for Pheasantipity, it says Pheasantipity owes its beautiful looks and lovely voice to the toxic stimulants emanating from the chain wrapped around its body. So all 3 of the loyal Pokemon looked and behaved differently until they received the toxic chain, which enhanced their capabilities and altered their appearance, and also maybe made them jerks. This has led to theories about what Pokemon the Loyal 3 were before becoming the Loyal 3. Okidogi was weak, so some people believe it used to be a Poochyena, or another small dog Pokemon like Rockruff. Pheasantipity used to be ugly, so there are theories that it used to be a Pidove, Tranquil, or Unpheasant, since they're both pheasant-based. When I saw this theory, female Unpheasant immediately stood out to me because it's intentionally supposed to be a drab Pokemon, so it would want to be more flamboyant. However, Pheasantipity is always male, so either male Unpheasant just like wasn't fancy enough, it was actually just a Tranquil that hadn't evolved yet, or it was a male Unpheasant that somehow looked like a female one, and therefore felt bad. Finally, Monkey Dory was a dumb Pokemon, but no monkey Pokemon are explicitly stated to be dumb, so there are theories based on just the body types like Thwackey or Monferno. Diplin's Violet entry says the head sticking out belongs to the foreworm, while the tail belongs to the core worm. The two share one apple and help each other out. I'm recording this half of the video before the Indigo disc comes out, so as of right now, we know that Diplin's going to get an evolution because an Eviolite works on it. The fact that Diplin has 2 worms inside its apple seems to heavily imply that whatever it turns into is gonna have 2 heads.
Oh, no.
Hoothoot's Violet entry says, since it tells time precisely, some countries consider it to be a deity of wisdom, versed in the ways of the world. There's several things I find interesting about this. First, it mentions countries and not regions. Then also, it's a new fact about Hoothoot that we never heard before. And third, they think this little guy's a deity. He's just a little owl. Ariados' Scarlet entry says, a single strand of a special thread is endlessly spun out of its rear. The thread leads back to its nest. Kinda gross. But I have more to say once we read its Violet entry. It wanders in search of food after darkness falls, never nesting in a specific place. Hold on, you just said the thread leads back to its nest. But then, in the other one, it says it never nests in a specific place. 2 Dex entries in the same generation pair games directly contradicting each other. If there's another example of that, I can't think of it right now. Ha-ha! It is I, Grunty, boy, and look at me go! I'm so fast! What are you doing?
I thirst for speed! The sponsor of this video is Disney Speedstorm, and the thrills of it have me supercharged! Disney Speedstorm is a free-to-play combat racing game on PC and console that officially launched in September, where you race as characters from Disney and Pixar.
Whoa, awesome! I want to race as Donald Duck.
Disney Speedstorm's races are super exciting thanks to the combat and different skills the characters have. each with a class like Speedster, Trickster, Brawler, and Defender. You can play both single player and multiplayer, and there's a variety of game modes.
Ooh, just hearing about this gives me the thirst for speed.
That's what I'm saying! The Frozen-inspired Season 5, Let It Go, is going on right now, featuring an Arendelle-inspired track, Frozen-inspired racers Elsa, Anna, Olaf, Kristoff, and Hans, new cosmetics and crew members, and more. Disney Speedstorm's new season, Let It Go, is available now. Download the game on PC and console for free using the link in the description below and start racing today.
Excellent. I'm gonna smoke you in some races.
Some? Try none. Finish up your video so I can dust you. Ta-ta!
Slugma's Scarlet entry says its lava body can cool and chip away at times, but a magma bath will heal it right up. Lots of Dex entries talk about how Slugma's body can cool and parts can chip off, but this is the first one to talk about the fact that it can get lost parts of its body back by taking a bath, and I just think that's nice. Then its Violet entry says, it's said in ancient times when volcanoes were more active, there were many more Slugma than there are now. I just think that's an interesting ecological change. Although, should we be worried about Slugma being endangered? Although, I suppose if Slugma's doing really well, then the rest of us are not. Macargo's Violet entry says, according to folklore, a sudden increase in the wild Macargo population heralds a volcanic eruption. This is according to folklore, not science. But once again, like if there's a lot of Slugma in Macargo, the rest of us probably are not doing great. Lotad's Scarlet entry says, the leaf on its head is naturally dirt repellent and will stay clean even after transporting Pokemon that are covered in mud. I just think that's nice. I've always liked Lotad, and you know, despite being a swamp deller, he's a neat freak like me. Lombre's Scarlet entry says, old folklore in Kitakami tells of a mischievous child who was reborn as a Pokemon. This is interesting to me because lots of other Lombre Dex entries talk about it being mistaken for a child. But it seems in Kitakami that turned into a legend that it actually was a child. Then its Violet entry says it prefers waterfronts with plentiful food. It became nocturnal, so it wouldn't have to compete for food with bird Pokemon. Lots of previous entries talk about it being nocturnal, but this is the first one to give us a reason why. And I think that's fun. I think ecology and how environments interact is a fun thing to add and discuss in Pokemon. C.Dot's Scarlet entry says to expand its habitat, it pretends to be a nut, so that bird Pokemon will pick it up and carry it far away. Two things. One, apparently C.Dot is not actually a nut, which I think is a little odd because it is a grass-type Pokemon. But secondly, once again, another ecology strategy that I think is super interesting. Like, part of the reason fruit exists is so animals will eat it and then poop out the seeds elsewhere. I hope C.Dot isn't trying to get pooped. But like, maybe. Shifttree's Violet entry says, legends tell of a bird Pokemon that received divine punishment for its evil deeds and had its beak and wings replaced. This is so cool. I know it says it's just a legend and not anything confirmed, but like, there's a whole category of real Pokemon called legendary Pokemon. But regardless of whether it's real or not, the idea of Shifttree being a bird Pokemon in the past and looking like a Shifttree but a bird is so interesting. They could do a Paradox Pokemon that's a bird Shifttree. Like, I think that's so fascinating and so fun, and it's just so cool. Corfish's Scarlet entry says, it came from overseas. It's a very hardy creature that will quickly proliferate even in polluted streams. This is not new information. Most of Corfish's Dex entries say it came from overseas or from a foreign land or whatever, which means it's not native to most regions. The only ones that don't explicitly say it came from elsewhere are Sinnoh, Unova, and Kalos. And Unova and Kalos do have regional Dex entries for Corfish. So maybe Corfish originated from Unova or Kalos or Sinnoh. However, we don't know which one. But we do know it did not originate from Kitakami. Duskull's Scarlet entry says, in the dead of night, these Pokemon wander through towns in search of children, whose vital energy is a Duskull's favorite food. Again, with the ghost Pokemon, and sapping life energy from kids, specifically? Yikes, Duskull! Then its Violet entry elaborates and says Duskull's victims suffer an intense chill as the Pokemon siphons their life force away, glaring at them with its bright red eye all the while. Oh my God, it is giving us more details about how it kills children. Sawaddle's Violet entry says, the bumps on their heads are sensory organs. When Sawaddle meet, they greet each other by rubbing these bumps together. Okay. Nice little palate cleanser there. That's just adorable. Leavanny's Scarlet entry says, this gentle Pokemon has strong protective instincts. The leaves on its arms are sharp enough to slice a thick tree in half with one stroke. Okay. Holy crap. Then its Violet entry says, it fashions clothing from woven leaves. Though gentle in disposition, it will show no mercy to foes who target young Pokemon. Well, thanks to the Scarlet entry, we know what happens to those foes. Bisection. Phantom's Scarlet entry says, legends tell that its green leaves can cure any illness. When plucked, however, the leaves will instantly wither away. This is just kind of funny. Like, they definitely don't cure any illness. It's just like people coming up with stories because like, oh, it is forbidden, it must be incredibly powerful. I think it's just like you cut a leaf off a plant, it's not gonna live. Grubbin's Violet entry says, it spits sticky threads and winds them around branches, then swings nimbly from tree to tree in a pendulum-like motion. Simply put, Grubbin is Spider-Man. Hakamo O's Scarlet entry says, it gets into fistfights so intense that the scales on its arms peel off. Bare arms are a sign of valiance. Ew, just ew. Like, the specific word choice of peel grosses me out so much. Like, if it had just said fall, I would have been fine, but peel? Cramorant's Violet entry says, it's an incredibly poor learner because it uses the bare minimum amount of energy for its brain. It focuses on battling instead. This is just kind of funny. Cramorant's dumb. But also it leads into the next one. The Scarlet entry for its gorging form says, its throat is clearly not wide enough to swallow a Pikachu, and yet Cramorant makes no moves to release its catch. Maybe it doesn't realize it can't swallow it because it uses the minimum amount of its brain. And now for the final entries in the Teal mask. Male Basculegion's Violet entry says, it can jump with incredible power. Parts of its body are tinged red by the rage of its fallen friends. Then the Violet entry for the female one says it can afflict a target with terrifying illusions that are under its control. The deeper the sadness in its friends' souls, the paler Basculegion becomes. We didn't know this in Legends Arceus. These entries now give us a reason for why male and female Basculegion look different. Sad reasons, but they are reasons. And now for the Indigo Disc Dex entries. Dodrio's Scarlet entry says it now has 3 hearts and 3 sets of lungs. Though it can't run as fast as Doduo, Dodrio can keep running for longer stretches of time. Kind of weird to say it can't run as fast as Doduo, considering Dodrio's base speed is 110, while Doduo's is only 75. Then its Violet entry says, the strongest head with the thickest neck becomes the leader and gains primary control of the body. This is the first time it's mentioned that one of the 3 heads is the leader over the other 2. Rhyhorn's Scarlet entry says, Rhyhorn claims an area with over a 6-mile radius as its territory. It apparently forgets where this territory is when running, however. Then its Violet entry says once it starts running, it won't stop, even if it crashes through boulders. This disposition is what's caused its habitat to expand. Both of these together amuse me. It's got a huge territory because it just keeps running and forgetting where its territory was, and it's like, oh, this is my new territory. Rhydon's Violet entry says it evolved to walk using only its hind legs, which has allowed it to expand its habitat even onto steep mountains. It evolves and expands its habitat even more. Rhyperior's Violet entry says a Rhyperior's brain is smaller than a Rhydon's, but the Rhyperior is stronger because it spends more energy on battling and less on brain power. So this is kind of crazy. Apparently Rhyperior is dumber than Rhydon, but I do wonder if it's dumber than Rhyhorn. I feel like that would be really hard to pull off. Electabuzz's Violet entry says, research is progressing on storing lightning in Electabuzz, so this energy can be used at any time. Most of Electabuzz's Dex entries talk about it causing blackouts, so I think this is kind of a funny progression where it's like, oh, it was causing so many blackouts, what if we could repurpose it to do the opposite effect? Be a battery in case there's a blackout. Although in defense of Electabuzz, its Ultra Moon entry says, while it's often blamed for power outages, the truth is the cause of outages is more often an error on the part of the electric company. Keep your utility companies accountable, people. Don't let them toss the blame onto a Pokemon. Electivire's Scarlet entry says, when it gets excited, it thumps its chest. With every thud, thunder roars and electric sparks shower all around. That just sounds awesome. I have nothing else to add. Zebstrika's Violet entry says, once the herd hears thunder, it chases after the storm clouds so that the Blitzel in the group can use the lightning to charge up. First off, just want to say, love Zebstrika, glad to have it back. And as for the Dex entry, I just think it's cute that it charges after storms in order to help its young get more powerful. Milcery's Violet entry says, when attacked, it tackles its foes and covers them in cream. With its foe either blinded or astonished by deliciousness, Milcery flees. Astonished by deliciousness might be my favorite set of words in any Dex entry ever. Trapinch's Scarlet entry says, this Pokemon lives in arid deserts. It patiently awaits prey inside its funnel-shaped nest. Normally, I don't cover any Dex entries that are repeats of previous generation Dex entries, but I had to bring up this one because of what they did in the terrarium. They actually put these funnel-shaped nests with Trapinch at the bottom in the terrarium, and I really enjoyed getting to see that. It's the first time we've seen these nests anywhere other than New Pokemon Snap. Pikipek's Violet entry says, Pikipek has strong muscles in its neck, so it won't hurt itself even if it violently shakes its head. Well, it's gotta have the densest muscle mass ever because look at it, it barely has a neck at all. Toucanon's Violet entry says, pairs of Toucanon are considered symbols of companionship as these Pokemon will raise the temperature of their beaks to warm each other. We already knew that it was a symbol of harmonious couples, you know, it's brought to weddings at times, but I just think it's so cute that they have like toucan couples that like, oh, it's cold, let me warm you up with my beak. It's just nice. Tentacruel's Violet entry says, in battle, it extends all 80 of its tentacles to entrap its opponent inside a poisonous net. Okay, this is a repeated Dex entry from previous games, but I have to talk about it because for 25 years, they've been trying to tell us that Tentacruel has 80 tentacles. It has 8. We can count them. Why are you still trying to convince us that it has 80? Now, to be fair, its Sun Dex entry says normally it has 80 poisonous tentacles. The longer one has been alive, the fewer tentacles it will have. But you could hatch a Tentacool and then rare candy it up to evolution within 5 minutes, and it will evolve into a Tentacruel with only 8 tentacles. Quit saying there's 80. Oddish's Scarlet entry says its scientific name is Audium Wanderus. It is said to cover distances as far as 1,000 feet when night falls, walking on its 2 roots. Once again, this is one that has been mentioned in the past. However, only in Fire Red and Y. And I played Leaf Green and X, so that's why I completely missed this. I caught an Oddish and saw Audium Wanderus. Not only Pokemon have scientific names, but it's Audium Wanderus. It's so silly. And also really interesting because have Pokemon had scientific names the whole time? Galarian Slowpoke's Violet entry says it uses its tail to fish, but the scent of the spice emanating from its tail ensures its catches are always lacking. As I've mentioned, Dex entries that talk about a Pokemon being bad at something always tickle me. Galarian Slowbro's Scarlet entry says, Shelter seems blissful over the taste of Slowbro, even though the toxins seeping from the bite have caused Shelter to faint. Then its Violet entry says, Shelter bites down hard on Slowbro's arm to suck out more poison. This seems to cause itching, so Slowbro occasionally lashes out. So basically, the Shelter's a drug addict, it is blissfully catatonic and has lost its sense of self, and then the Slowbro is regularly agitated by the Shelter biting it. What the hell is going on? Like, whatever the opposite of a symbiotic relationship is, that's what this Pokemon is. Galarian Slowking's Scarlet entry says, it administers its potions to weakened Pokemon it sees. These potions are derived from poison and secreted from holes in Slowking's horns. Okay, it seems nice, but its Violet entry says it creates potions by mixing toxins with the food it's eaten. Not even Slowking itself knows what effects the potions will have. So Slowking is just handing out random drugs to weakened Pokemon and doesn't know what they're gonna do? Are you kidding me? Those commercials that are like, don't do drugs, and there's like, hey kid, you want something? Those people are real, and it's Galarian Slowking. It seems both Galarian Slowbro and Slowking should be cautionary tales in DARE classes. Just say no to the slow, kids! Inkay's Violet entry says, being upside down improves its blood flow and clears its mind, causing the power of its psychic moves to increase dramatically. Inkay is always turned upside down to attack, and you have to turn your console upside down to evolve it, but we've never really had a lore explanation for why, but now we do. It improves blood flow and increases its psychic power. Dewpider's Violet entry says it supports the water bubble that envelops its head with 3 of its legs. Sometimes it secretly swaps which legs are holding up the bubble. Until I read this Dex entry, I did not realize that those were legs. I thought they were just like antenna or horns or something. The fact that it can swap them when no one's looking just really tickles me. Hitmontop's Scarlet entry says this Pokemon is adept at dance-like kicks. The horn atop its head is made from the same substance that generally forms fur and claws. That substance is keratin, and I think it's interesting that they specifically mention it. Then its Violet entry says it spins on its horn while dealing out elegant kicks. Its horn grows continuously throughout its lifetime. This is the first time it's mentioned that Hitmontop's horn continually grows, but it also tickles me a bit because I think about a really old Hitmontop having just a preposterously long horn that it could never balance on. Male Meowstic's Violet entry says, if Meowstic continuously emits its powerful psychic energy, it will damage its own body. That's not great. Meteor Form Minior's Violet entry says it will react when touched or called to, but it's unknown whether such responses indicate consciousness. Wait, hold on. We're not sure if Minior is conscious? It's a little unclear whether they're just referring to the Meteor form here, but like it responds to commands. Then the Core Form's Violet entry says, Minior that fall to the ground try to return to space, but their wish will not come true. All they can do is fade away. What the hell? Why are these Dex entries so mean to Minior? The first one is like, yeah, we're not sure if it's even conscious. And then the second one's like, its wish will never come true. It will never return to its home. It will die here. And so, like, why? It's so cute. Why be so mean? And also, like, are all Minior just like actively dying? Okay, I guess technically all living things are like actively getting closer to death, but it's like all it can do is fade away. That's so bleak. Hisuian Quillfish's Scarlet entry says it lives just offshore in cold parts of the world. Its poisonous spikes are thicker and shorter than those of other regions' quillfish. I like this. This explains how Hisuian Quillfish can still be around in modern times. It's only found in exceptionally cold water, and it's only found in the waters of the polar biome of the terrarium. Duraludon's Violet entry says its metal body is durable but prone to retaining heat. It vents this heat from the slits in its tail. I just thought this was a fun little biology fact. That's why the slits are there. Archaludon's Scarlet entry says it gathers static electricity from its surroundings. The beams it launches when down on all fours are tremendously powerful. I just think it's funny that Archaludon has to get down on all fours to launch any attacks. You know, really drives home the, look, I'm a bridge. Hydrapple's Scarlet entry says 7 Seerpints live inside an apple made of syrup. The Seerpint in the center is the commander. First off, 7? I was expecting 2 because there were 2 of them in Dipplin. I lost my mind when my shiny one evolved and all the other heads popped out. I was like, excuse me? Oh my God, like where did the other 5 come from? Here it is. I haven't seen this before. What are you? Whoa! But also I wanted to draw attention to the usage of the word Syrpent, S-Y-R-P-E-N-T. That spelling is intentional, I believe, to show it's a combination of serpent and worm. It looks like worm to me, but that's an old word for a dragon. So it's like, look, it's a snake and a dragon, and also sort of a worm too. Then its Violet entry says these capricious Syrpins have banded together. On the rare occasion that their moods align, their true power is unleashed. Capricious means prone to mood swings. You may have already known that, but I didn't. So I thought I would explain for those of you who had identical vocabularies to me. But also this explains its signature move, Fickle Beam. Most of the time, Fickle Beam is only 80% power, but 30% of the time it will double to 160. So apparently the rare occasion where their moods align is 30% of the time. Swampert's Violet entry says Swampert's arms are rock hard. With one swing, they can batter down Swampert's foes. This Pokemon makes its nest on beautiful beaches. This is another one that has technically been mentioned in the past, but I missed it because the note about it making its nest on beautiful beaches was only brought up in Fire Red and Leaf Green, which I don't know about you, that's a game I didn't put a Swampert in. But on that point, Swampert built its nest on beautiful beaches, not in, I don't know, swamps? I know the Hoenn region's got a lot of beautiful beaches, but like, this still took me by surprise. Oshawott Violet entry says, it's said that Oshawott learned to maintain its Scalchop with riverbed stones by mimicking humans it saw using whetstones. This is the first mention of Oshawott mimicking humans, and that's interesting because it leads into Duott's Scarlet entry. It's said that people modeled swordplay after the way Duott's movements flow like water while it's wielding its two Scalchops. So Oshawott copied us, and then we copied Duott. And I just think that's a cool little symbiotic teaching relationship. Samurot's Scarlet entry says, a master of a sword drawing art called Aiajutsu. Definitely butchered that, sorry. Samurott settles its battles with a single swing of either large sword sheathed in its four-leg armor. Again, sorry, probably gonna butcher the pronunciation on this, but Aiajutsu is a real thing. Wikipedia says it's a combative quick-draw sword technique. This art of drawing the Japanese sword, katana, is one of the Japanese Koryu martial art disciplines in the education of the classical warrior. Delphox's Scarlet entry says it leaves burn marks in the ground with the flame at the tip of its wand. Long ago, people used the shapes of these burn marks for divination. Other entries say Delphox could see into the future, but this is the first mention of people using what Delphox created to do the same. Or at least, trying to. Greninja's Violet entry says it makes shuriken out of mucus excreted from its thighs. These shuriken can cut cleanly through steel cables. Hold on. Mucus? Excreted from its thighs? Its X version Dex entry said they were made from compressed water. You mean to tell me that this Pokemon's signature move should not be called Water Shuriken, but Snot Star? Okay, yes, I understand that snot is nasal mucus specifically. I really liked the alliteration. But anyways, like, that attack just got way grosser. Rillaboom's Scarlet entry says, though it has a calm disposition, it won't tolerate those who drum up discord. It strictly disciplines offenders until they learn their lesson. It seems whoever wrote this Dex entry has a taste for wordplay, because a previous Dex entry says Rillaboom, it appreciates harmony. You know, that's not new information. But this writer specifically inserted the phrase drum up. And I gotta say, I respect it. Raboot's Violet entry says, while it prides itself on its varied kicking moves, it can also deliver powerful headbutts once its flames have heated up its forehead. It appears Raboot knows how to do headers. Inteleon's Violet entry says, it may present itself as being well-mannered, but deep down, it still has a lazy side. It will slack off when its trainer isn't looking. This is the first mention of Inteleon being lazy like Drizzile is. Gouging Fire's Scarlet entry says, there are scant few reports of this creature being sighted. One short video shows it rampaging and spouting pillars of flame. I'm sorry, I'm a little confused here. Who possibly got this thing on video? Iron Crown's Scarlet entry says it resembles a mysterious object introduced in a paranormal magazine as a cutting-edge weapon shaped like a Cobalion. All the entries that mention a paranormal magazine should be taken with a grain of salt, but I do think it's interesting that they said it's a weapon shaped like Cobalion and not a modified Cobalion. You know, they just built a robot to look like Cobalion. But then Iron Boulder's Scarlet entry says it resembles a Pokemon described in a dubious magazine as a Terrakion that had been modified by an evil organization. Okay, so Iron Crown just looks like Cobalion, but Iron Boulder is actually a modified Terrakion? I don't know what to believe here. Also, what is this evil organization? Like another Team Rocket in the future? Team like Super Rainbow Rocket? I don't know. Iron Leaf's Violet entry says, according to the few eyewitness accounts that exist, it used its shining blades to julienne large trees and boulders. Julienne means to cut into thin strips. How do you julienne a boulder? Next, I have Dex entries for Terrapagos, which has 6 in total, and I'm gonna cover 4 of them. Its normal form Scarlet entry says Terrapagos protects itself using its power to transform energy into hard crystals. This Pokemon is the source of the Terrastal phenomenon. This tiny baby is the source for the whole shindig across multiple regions. Wild. Its normal form Violet entry says it's thought that this Pokemon lived in ancient Paldea until it got caught in seismic shifts and went extinct. This seems to imply there were a lot more of them in ancient Paldea. Only one has survived. Which if that's the case, was there just like a lot more crystals? Its Terrastal form Violet entry says the shell is made of crystallized Terrastal energy. When struck by a move, the shell absorbs the move's energy and transfers it to Terapagos. This is the explanation for its ability Terra Shell, which makes it so that any hit that strikes it when it has full HP is not very effective, which is essentially just multi-scale. And then its stellar form Scarlet entry says, in this form, Terapagos resembles the world as the ancients saw it, and its terrestrial energy is abnormally amplified. Okay. Resembles the world as the ancients saw it. Really goes hard as a phrase. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to check out another one of my videos, you totally should. You can go to this one right here. I think it's a really good video. I make great videos. It's a lot of fun. But anyways, that's all I have for now. So until next time, Poke fans, gotta catch them all.